everybody, and welcome to Geeks Speak Louder Than Nerds, a weekly rewatch podcast for TV shows, movies, and this week, if I had a nickel for every time an MCU show underused Daredevil and then ended with a family barbecue, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice. My name is Nick Farrow.
And I'm Mike Hilty.
And joining us today is our guest, fellow Siftpop contributor, and bane of Robin Scherbatsky's existence, Patrice.
You invited Patrice.
Hey, hello.
You guys seem
Welcome
so
to
down
the
today.
show.
I made you cookies.
Damn it, Patrice! Stop smothering me!
So yes, welcome, Patrice.
Thank you guys for having me here.
We're very glad that you could be here today.
Patrice, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm equal parts geeky and nerdy, which works out great for this.
Awesome.
Hey,
that's the name of the podcast.
Oh, it works out so great.
We should, anytime a guest comes on, we should ask them, first question, are you a geek or are you a nerd?
That's actually really good. Do that right now.
Which half of yourself is fighting more? Which do you think wins more? I feel like the nerd side wins more, but the geek side tries harder.
Equal parts geek and nerd. Tell us 100%. More about yourself.
So I am just a forklift driving lover of movies and TV. I literally drive heavy equipment, so I get to listen to all the TV and movies and podcasts I want while I work usually, which is great for me because I feel like there's not enough hours in the day anymore to keep up with the amount of content that comes out. It's just daunting. Like there's so many just franchises that I feel like I've had to give up on lately for a while. Like you have to put them on the back burner because you can't keep up with Marvel and Star Wars and just like all at the same time because it's just so much content. And then if you're like me and you like listening to podcasts about the content and nerding out with other people about it, that's even more time that you don't have to explore the other stuff. So I love the time we're living in right now for people like us that enjoy the discourse about it and enjoy talking to other people that love this stuff as much as we do, because growing up in the 80s and 90s, you read things in the paper, you talked to your friends at school. Like if someone hadn't seen a movie, you're just on an island by yourself. Like I have no one to talk to about this. Like, right. Or if everyone saw the movie and you didn't get to see the movie this weekend, then you couldn't contribute anything at lunch at school.
When Titanic came out, it was a solid 2 months of just
that's it.
Couldn't talk to anybody.
Not even, that was the only thing anyone talked about. How many times have you seen it?
I saw it once 2 years ago for the first time ever.
So my mom's going to figure this out for the first time when she listens to this, but I said I saw it twice because it was such a long movie. Most people in high school at the time were saying that they loved it so much and were seeing it all the time because it was the only way we could stay out late. And I wasn't doing anything important. I just wanted to be out and be out late because you're in high school and you just don't want to be home at 11. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to go see Titanic again. So when it came up for pre-order at Blockbuster, my mom pre-ordered it for me and I got it for like my birthday or something. And I opened it and she thought it was going to be like the best gift I ever got in my entire life. Because, oh my God, I pre-ordered this movie for her. She's going to be so happy. It's 2 VHS tapes, which was like a big deal back then.
Yes, it was.
It was 2 tapes with all the extra features. And I opened it and I'm like, Titanic. She's like, yeah. You saw it twice in the theater. I know how much you love it. I'm like, I do.
Can you imagine though, seeing a movie twice in the theater means that you like love it so much. Like I saw Finding Nemo 9 times in the theater when it came out. That was my love it so much.
Right?
Look, I saw Titanic 4 times in the theater. But that doesn't equate to 9 times watching Finding Nemo.
Nemo played all summer long, so it wasn't like I saw it 9 times in a week.
Oh, I mean, Titanic was in the theater for over a year. It just did not go away.
Back in the day when that was, somewhat acceptable for that to do.
Thanks, streaming.
Yeah, you guys would actually cry at the amount of time it's been since I went to an actual theater. In fact, I bet you couldn't even guess within years.
Oh, okay. That sounds like a challenge. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and say Avengers Endgame.
Oh, you're not even close, honey.
X-Men The Last Stand. Uh-oh.
2007.
Getting closer.
I have to say, I think you're closer to the ballpark.
Spider-Man 2.
Hold,
That was
please.
2000. What was that? 2004.
That's around the same time.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, no, way better than that.
Well, that was 2003. So
2003 is the year, actually.
Jesus.
I don't know if you know this, but Pirates of the Caribbean is Nick's favorite movie ever. So
Oh, I knew it was up there for him. However, this one's on a lot of people's geek out lists.
was it Return of the King?
Thank you.
Oh,
That was the last thing
oh
I saw
my
in a theater.
God.
Could you do anything right, Patrice?
So last question for you before we get into this. Has there been a movie that you were like, man, I wish I could have seen that in theaters?
I actually do wish I had seen like Endgame like in the theater. Like I really think that the group experience for that would have been pretty amazing. But I also kind of because I don't go to theaters, I have a very different relationship with Marvel in general because I did not see or get spoiled on anything. And I didn't see a lot of it until Disney Plus came out. So I actually
Really?
spent a week watching everything chronologically. So like I didn't get spoiled on Ragnarok. I was 100% shocked when they get to the gladiator kind of scene and all of a sudden it's like he's my friend from work. Like that was a surprise for me that I know was ruined for a lot of other people. But yeah, I'm so glad that I was able to watch everything. First off, I didn't have to wait years in between too, because I think I would have lost my mind. Like I
That's
cannot
fair. That's
I
fair.
absolutely do not think I would be able to focus on anything had I watched like half of it and just had to wait for Endgame. I would have just that would have been crazy. I remember just staying up for I think I was up for over a day. I'd been watching so many in a row. By the time I had got to Endgame, I think I'd been up for like 26 hours or something.
Mm.
But it was amazing. And like, I really do wish I had been able to share that with other people that were just as amped up to see what happened to these characters after so many years of being invested in them. I mean, I wasn't invested for that long, but even just over the week it took me to get there, I was like, oh my God,
Mm.
what an experience that had to have been.
Definitely
Yeah,
was. I
it
would have too.
was.
So
Yeah.
that's definitely the only time I can remember thinking, man, I wish I had seen this in the theater.
Well, if we ever invent that time machine, the first thing we're doing is we're taking you back to 2019 opening night. We're gonna watch that right in the theater. It'll
Yeah.
blow your mind.
I also do the same thing with Spider-Man No Way Home, unlike somebody else on this podcast.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Nick hates Spider-Man No Way Home. It's
Hate
just
it.
not his thing.
Aw,
It's
yeah.
it's the
I
lowest on his
actually
list.
that one gave me all kinds of feelings that I'm not happy about, but
When will people wake up and realize everything Spider-Man touches comes to ruin, and we, the innocents, are left to pick up the pieces? J. Jonah Jameson reporting.
Well, we are very glad that you are here with us today. So thanks for jumping on. So Nick, want to get us into the show?
Let's do it. Today we'll be covering the MCU's 45th entry, or possibly retroactively their 51st entry. I'm not sure. Echo. Echo. Echo.
I'm hoping that will be the first of many echo jokes.
we're still allowed to echo sentiments though, correct?
We'll get there. Don't you worry.
All the time. Echo. Just a note for our dear listeners. We will be going full spoilers for this episode, so this is your spoiler warning. If you don't want to be spoiled for Echo, then go watch it and come back. If you don't care about spoilers and just like listening to the smooth, melodic sounds of Patrice and tolerate the nails on chalkboard of Mike and I, then here we go.
Once upon a time, there was a lovely princess.
My Lopez is back.
You must be truly desperate to come to me for help.
The synopsis for Echo is the origin story of Echo. First introduced in the show Hawkeye, revisits Maya Lopez, whose ruthless behavior in New York City catches up with her in her hometown. She must face her past, reconnect with her Native American roots, and embrace the meaning of family and community if she ever hopes to move forward. starring Aquala Cox as Echo / Mayo Lopez. I'm going to apologize in advance now for a blanket. I'm sorry if I get everybody's name wrong. Chasky Spencer as Henry Blacklaw Lopez. Tantu Cardinal as Chula. Vincent D'Onofrio, just kidding. Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. Graham Greene as Scully, and Cody Lightning as Biscuits.
Might be perhaps the greatest name of anybody in the
Ever.
MCU.
Right?
Both Cody Lightning and Biscuits.
Did you guys get the feeling that they accidentally switched the name of his character with the dog at one point
dog.
and just let it roll? They're like, you know what? This works better. Let's keep that. His name was supposed to be Billy Jack, but like, you know what? He looks like a biscuit.
You know what? I hadn't considered that, but now it's all I'm going to think about. So.
I 100% was sitting there like, that dog's name was 100% Biscuits, and this dude is supposed to be Billy Jack. I'm like, I need to read the comic.
That seems like a good theory because he was the only one that kind of provided just a little bit of comic relief. They were probably like, okay, fine, you can be Biscuits. We'll just go with that.
Well, and I love that he was Biscuits from the time he was a kid too. It wasn't like it was a later nickname, like as he's an adult. Like they called him that when he was a kid. Like, really?
That's his name. It's on the birth certificate.
His grown adult name is Biscuits.
Maybe his full birth name is Bisquick.
His name was Cookie, but then they moved to America.
He was such a sweet little cookie. We called him Biscuit.
Well, I mean, let's get right off into it. Let's start off with initial reactions and anticipation levels for the show, both when it was announced and like leading up to its release. So, Patrice, why don't you kick us off? What did you think about them saying, hey, you know that one character from Hawkeye? She's going to get her own TV show.
I actually was very excited about it because I thought she was a pretty interesting character, because when you see an assassin coming in with the skills she had, but working for who she worked for, and you just got to wonder, like, how does she get involved in, like, where did she come from? Like, why does Kingpin have that relationship with her? Like, that just kind of stuck in my mind as a reason why I'd be interested in this show, which I'm glad they got into. But I just thought she was such a cool, different kind of character compared to everyone else. Yeah, she's, a normal human punching machine for a lot of the Hawkeye series. But I was one of the people that when it kept saying coming soon and then never had a release date was getting pretty frustrated. And then Disney Plus took it off of the coming soon. And I was like, are you kidding me? Did this get canceled? What's going on? And then they said it was going to be out in like October, November. And then it was off the list. And then finally they had the date and they were going to drop all the episodes at once. And I'm like, thank you. So I was really excited about this. Just, I enjoy that she's a culturally deaf actress. And I think is so beautiful to include all of that. I thought the signing, and because I'm not by any means fluent, I have very basic like conversational ASL skills. I work with several people that I talk to in ASL every day, and I thought that the acting by the others involved was pretty, like, I was impressed. I'm not saying they look like fluent speakers or anything, but I thought it was very cool that it seems like they took their time and did their homework and got the right people involved in helping them through the acting out in both verbally and visually, which was really cool. And I thought it was cool how much sound actually played a part in the series overall, like when to use it, when not to use it. So, I mean, I'm not going to say I loved it, but I definitely liked it.
Yeah, I'm the same. I really liked the use of the sound. I think my favorite moment from the show is episode 3 and how it opens up as like a silent film era type movie.
That was the best opening of any of them. I loved that one so much.
When they lean into that, it's wonderful.
And it was cool that even though it was a very Mulan opening,
a woman,
they made it their own.
Synergy.
Yeah. Go with what works.
What about you, Mike? What were you thinking when Echo got announced?
Similar to Patrice, I thought that Echo was an interesting character in Hawkeye, but I went the exact opposite direction. I was like, why? Why are we doing this? I do think that Marvel definitely needs to kind of highlight their diversity a little bit better. And this was a good way to do that on two fronts. not only the Native American / indigenous peoples front, but also from a deaf and hard of hearing standpoint as well. That's an interesting concept that kind of gets the surface gets scratched a little bit in Hawkeye, but not to the same level that it is in here. But I wasn't looking forward to this for a couple reasons. One, I was a little, I guess, concerned about how much more we can do with this character. But also, the other issue that I had was I am not a huge fan of a lot of the original stuff that Disney Plus has been doing lately. Their track record isn't that great. And then, more importantly, as well, it kept getting pushed back. And then when they said, we're just going to drop these all at once, that to me was a giant red flag. And I thought this series was perfectly fine. It's a little schizophrenic at times, meaning that it does not know which way that this is going to go. Is this going to dip its toes into more mature content? You know, it is a Marvel Spotlight series and it doesn't get the fancy logos and everything like that, but it's still something that they're trying to showcase that it's different. And there are a lot of times where it's like, no, you're not. You're not different at all. You're just like a lot of these other Marvel shows.
Yeah, I think a lot of the R-rated that they were, oh, look at us, it's gonna be TVMA. It feels like that was a studio note after the fact, and that a lot of that was added in post with digital effects and maybe a couple reshoots here and there to add a couple, like a bloody fist or dude spitting up blood when he falls onto the thing. Like it all felt really surface level.
That particular scene made me just hate birthday parties. Because all I can think of is how many unwitting skate parties are going to happen there in the future.
Tough being a kid. Fancy parties, scratchy clothes.
Blood everywhere.
I'm going to split the difference between the two of you. I also asked why, but then I optimistically said, well, based on what I'm hearing, because I don't have a ton of experience with this character at all. And when I say a ton, I mean zero. I had zero experience with this character. I did a little bit of looking on the internet, and it turns out, yes, she has a connection with Kingpin and a connection with Daredevil. So my assumption was that they were going to back things up a bit. And with the announcement of Daredevil Born Again, they were going to somehow like make this a prequel series to Daredevil and explain, here's the story of her and Kingpin and Daredevil, and and that's what the show was gonna be. I just assumed that they were going to do like a prequel that maybe like the 5 years during the snap when everyone was gone, how Kingpin came to power and how Maya was like his right hand person. And so I was kind of excited for that, but at the same time I was like, but really, why? Like, I mean, it almost feels like if you're going to do that, just make a Daredevil show. And it sounds like that is exactly what they did. And then they didn't do that. So I was excited to a degree. I was mostly confused and curious more than anything else. I, on the other hand, did not think dropping them all at once was too much of a red flag. In the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, that might not be a good thing.
It's not like Loki where you are waiting for that night for the episode to drop and watch it. Like, I don't think they could realistically expect an audience to be like coming back week after week for 5 episodes of Echo.
I do agree with that as well, but given Disney Plus's penchant for the only shows that they drop all at once are kids focused shows and the ones that they're just like, let's just get this shit over with. Nick and I have talked about this a zillion times. You need to utilize these specials a lot more.
Werewolf by Night being the way it was perfectly fine. I still don't understand why that wasn't the first official Spotlight, especially since it was one of the comics from the Spotlight 70s.
I think they've only just decided that Spotlight is a thing now.
It's like you got the character literally from a comic called Marvel Spotlight.
Yeah.
I mean, Moon Knight, I feel like could have been the same way. And those were both Spotlight comics. So, I mean, it's cool that they finally decided this is the route. Not everyone wants to watch everything to be able to watch a TV show. It's nice that they're finally realizing that people are a little burnt out of having to watch everything to watch the thing they're interested in.
So I'm glad then they dropped Echo, which requires you to watch Hawkeye, Daredevil.
Well, you don't have to watch Daredevil, and you don't have to watch Hawkeye because they literally wasted an
No.
entire episode giving you the previously on bullet points. So technically, you don't have to rewatch anything.
Yeah, they added a few new things, chopped it up, so you weren't just here's 5 minutes of previously on. So I did appreciate that fact that they didn't. I like that the first thing you get into is her ancestor, like how they. I like that part of the entering into each episode being not just a I mean, it starts with a previously on after that, but you're not getting into the new show with previously on Hawkeye. I mean, you get it, but not in those words in that cut. Here's 5 minutes of dump. Like it got spread out through the first episode. So by the time she's back in her hometown at the end of that episode, you're ready to really get into the series. And with the episodes being as short as they were, I really didn't have a problem with that. It wasn't like I was there for an hour and a half trying to get there and then finally getting into a series. It was less than 45 minutes before, everything new started happening.
For me, at least, that was my least favorite part. I hated episode 1. I clocked it. The episode doesn't start until the 28-minute mark. They finally get done with all the previously on. No. And I'm just like, I would honestly rather them do a 7 to 10 minute previously on Hawkeye to catch the audience up, that who doesn't need to be caught up, can just hit the skip button and then watch a full episode of television. No, I do not understand why they did it this way.
No, I agree with Patrice. I think all of that was necessary and needed, because in Hawkeye you don't really get a whole lot of that backstory. You get the murder.
I'm not saying cut the whole backstory. Just cut the Hawkeye stuff. Everything that was previously filmed, because they didn't even refilm it. It's just they took clips from Hawkeye and inserted it into the show as though it was new show.
Well, they had added the new stuff into it though, so you weren't just getting Hawkeye clips. And if they're expecting a viewer who hasn't watched stuff to want to watch this, I get why they did it that way. I don't think there's any world where we'd all be happy with the way that they're trying to make this stand alone, knowing what we know about Hawkeye and about Daredevil and about these characters. So I think they were trying to make it so it wasn't just, hey, here's this person, you've never heard of her, and oh, by the way, she totally thinks that she killed someone and she's on the run. And then here you go. And now she's somewhere. Like, I don't think you'd care enough about her to keep watching the series if you didn't get that extra time to get introduced to her. But
I think you need the introduction. That's not the part I have a problem with. I think there's a better way to write that without incorporating the Hawkeye stuff in the episode. And Hawkeye is one of my favorite MCU. As our listeners know, I have it high up on my list. It didn't flow at all. It became a montage at one point. I mean, they broke it up by throwing a Daredevil scene and a new scene with Fisk in there, but they didn't do a good enough job incorporating it. I honestly think you open it as you did with the people in the past, then you cut to her as a kid and the accident with her mom, and then you cut to however many years later. If you want to throw in that Daredevil scene and now she's a member of the mob, and then maybe show her having her little fisticuffs with Fisk, and then she's doing her thing. But I'm just saying there's a better way to incorporate all of that backstory than by wasting the first 30 minutes of your episode, sprinkling it in haphazardly. I don't know. That's just me, I guess. I guess I'm on the minority with this one.
It's looking that way.
Yeah, a little bit.
Why won't you let me help you, Patrice?
Well, let's hit the episodes in order, because there is more to episode 1 that we could cover before we move on to episode 2. So episode 1 is young Maya Lopez leaves her hometown of Tamaha, Oklahoma, following her mother's death, and moves to New York City, where Wilson Fisk raises her to be a ruthless assassin. Upon learning Fisk had her father killed, Maya shoots him and flees. So right off the bat, the opening I thought was pretty interesting. They really grabbed me. The people living under the tree in the cave or with the blue glowing water. It gave me real What If Kaori vibes, but that's probably because we just watched that. But it was really interesting, that whole scenario. What did you guys think of it?
Oh, I loved that. I thought that was a great way to introduce the fact that her culture was going to play a big role in it. It wasn't just going to be about her being an assassin and being, part of Kingpin's army. It was going to be about her all parts of her culture, the deaf part of her cultural heritage and the indigenous part of her cultural heritage, and how it made her the person that she is, because they all definitely influenced each other.
Yep. No notes. I agree.
Yeah, that whole opening from the moment it starts till when her dad says he has to take her to New York, like I really enjoyed all of that. That was really good storytelling. It except for the really quick talking to her in the hospital and then they're leaving, I feel like an entire scene was cut. I don't know, maybe the young actress just couldn't do the your mom's dead scene, or they just decided, it's too dark for Disney Plus. I don't know, but I feel like that scene, which felt like it should have been crucial, was missing.
I would agree with that. And also feel like we probably could have used something that indicates also that Bonnie wasn't going with either. So they're being split up in addition to her going to New York.
Well,
Okay,
the
great.
family dynamic was weird.
I was confused by the children, how everyone
Bonnie,
was legitimately related to each other to begin with.
so Bonnie and Biscuits and Maya are cousins. And I guess
But who are their parents?
Biscuits and Bonnie don't have parents. Their parents are alluded to, but we never see them or hear about them. So like what happened to their parents? And then are Biscuits and Bonnie brother and sister? Or are they
Right. Are they
cousins through a
cousins
different
too?
set of parents?
Like, is Chula just Chula's the grandmother of everyone, but did she have three different kids that all had one kid, and these are all three cousins from like, I got confused by that. So
Yeah,
it was a
I don't know.
little bit like, I mean, I didn't see why Bonnie would be going with, Maya to New York, but at the same time, I didn't understand why Maya necessarily had to go either. I mean, I get that her dad was just going to take her and go.
My guess is that Bonnie lives with Chula and Scully. That's what my guess is. And that Biscuit's parents just were not needed for the show. So it didn't have to be here. Because they said Biscuits was sick, so he
Yeah, he
couldn't
was sick, but he
come.
didn't even need a kid in the
So
show.
yeah.
They didn't even bother
It could be a
casting a
budget
kid
thing.
Biscuit.
From what I understand, they had the budget originally for 6 episodes, and then they got their budget cut, and it became 5 episodes. So that could
Trains
explain
are
why they
expensive.
decided to make episode one a previously on, because they were like, well, we have to do something. We have to cram a lot of information into a little bit of time now. So because and Bonnie is clearly the victim of that cut, because it's so clear that she was meant to have a bigger role, and it just never happened.
Can we talk about this Daredevil fight for a second?
Please.
Sure. What everybody came to see in the show. Why not?
Let me just start by saying that whole thing, I love that they're showing the first time she's sent out to see if she can cut it, if she's going to freak out, if she's going to hold her own, whatever. And I love that the use of sound in the beginning of when they first start fighting is amazing. You go from the two heartbeats and then you're not sure what's going to happen exactly. And then she freaking snaps that guy and you hear one heartbeat and you're like, oh, it's on. Like she's in, like she's got this.
Yeah.
That had me hyped up thinking this is going to be such a great scene. And then it kind of got to the way that kind of scene's going to go, shoot, shoot, punch, punch. I felt like it wasn't as chopped up though as a lot of the things we see. Like there were longer shots, like more uninterrupted shots than we're used to with a lot of this stuff, which is great because I love a long one shot. That it's one of my favorite things from Hawkeye was the whole, they use three cameramen to do that one where they go in the car through the car seat. Like that was amazing. And I wanted to see more of that in this, but started to get there. And then they went back to basics with
They wanted to do the Daredevil hallway scene, but they were like, we're just not skilled enough to do that. So I really liked how they made it simulated. It really looked like a really long oneer, but they were
I mean, it
very
wasn't, but you could,
economical with their cuts. Like it looked so good. I give them all the props for trying to make it look like a oneer,
for
because
sure.
that's still better than what we normally get from the MCU.
Yeah, it was great to actually be able to focus on the action and not just be so distracted. Like, well, I guess she's gonna get out of this because it's episode one. Like, I didn't feel like that when I was watching that scene. I was invested enough to want to know what was going to happen next, and watching her just start to really own the fight as she got more and more into it, I thought was really interesting. Especially when the guy that frisked her at the beginning, I loved that. I knew it was coming, but I still,
He got his.
I loved it. I was like, oh, bro. Like when he had I was like, you might as well be wearing a red shirt because you're out of here.
Yeah, I think they could have done the Daredevil stuff a little bit better structurally. Like maybe the whole first episode should have focused on Daredevil and Kingpin and Maya's vendetta towards each other. Like make him more of a character instead of a cameo.
For sure. I mean, if I had one
Yeah.
complaint about the first episode, that's really it, is that I thought for sure we were going to get a little more Daredevil after that first initial fight scene, and then we didn't. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like,
Okay, hold on 1 second. Nick, you have a problem with them splicing in stuff about Hawkeye, and then you want them to go back and do previously on Daredevil.
No. I never said that.
You crazy man. You sound insane. Do you realize that? You should be medicated.
I said I wanted there to be more, like cut out all the Hawkeye stuff and make the episode about Maya having to deal with Daredevil.
This is starting to piss me off about Marvel because Marvel, cut the shit. Let's just fast forward. Let's get this Daredevil show and let's properly reintroduce him into the MCU as opposed to all of the shit where people are just, hey, let's drop him in Spider-Man. Let's drop him in She-Hulk.
I really liked that episode.
I loved that episode in She-Hulk. That stinger in No Way Home, I squealed, but I also hated it as well. Because it was
I loved it.
How did you just do that? I'm a really good lawyer.
Oh, you love something from No Way Home. That's great.
I loved. Oh, it's one of the only things that made me excited. That was the cameo for me.
Oh, great. This just signifies just a larger problem that I've been having with Marvel lately is that you are kneecapping your primary character just to get a good cameo from a character that everybody wants to see.
And that's my point. That's why I think he should have been the villain of episode 1. You're doing a TV series. You're not doing a long movie. You're doing a TV series. I love the fact that each episode starts with a flashback to an ancestor that really like bookends each episode. I think that's a great first step in making your show feel more episodic. But episode 1 needed something else. And it's either make him the main villain of the episode that Maya has to go up against, and that's your first episode, or he shouldn't be in it at all. They need to knock it off with these quick cameos, like Valkyrie showing up for 30 seconds in the Marvels, or what are the other ones that they've been doing lately? Like, it feels more like an end credit scene than it does a legitimate scene in your show, because it just stops the momentum. Because then you're like, oh, okay, when's he coming back? And he never comes back.
That's I guess my big problem with it is that it is cumbersome to the point where it is just plain distracting. And you do not need that with a show about a character, like a side character in Hawkeye that is not really that popular amongst your fan base because they just don't know a whole lot about her yet. So it just frustrated me to no end that this was the spot that they picked to have Daredevil in, because to do it in the first episode shows a level of confidence that I don't like.
See, when I first saw Daredevil pop up in the first episode, I thought it was a smart move because I thought they were going to explore more of their adversarial relationship with her thinking that he's the bad guy, because she's still, up until this point, everything she's become as an adult has been based off of things she's grown up thinking are true about the person that's basically the most important person in her life, Kingpin, her uncle, raising her with their dad or whatever. But she doesn't, I think she knows, it's wrong to kill people, but I still think she feels like she was part of something that wasn't necessarily all bad and that Daredevil was bad. So it would have made more sense if they had showed just a little bit more of her still buying into him being the enemy and the bad guy, so that later on it would make more sense. It'd make her think more about how she felt about a lot of things, like what her motivations were and a lot of the things she was doing when she was part of Kingpin's army. And then you could explore later, like down the road with Daredevil more. But they really just kind of missed it with having it just be so very brief, because you can't pretend like that was the only time in New York that she ever came across him.
Yeah, I agree. It ties into the conversation she has with Kingpin in episode 5, where their relationship has taken a turn. And the show wants us to feel like Maya's being redeemed by renouncing Kingpin. And it doesn't work because we didn't ever get, other than a few snippets and flashbacks here and there, we never saw Maya at her worst. Like, imagine the first season of Daredevil. If instead of getting 10 episodes of Daredevil being that gritty vigilante and then becoming who he becomes by the end, like that 10 episodes of that show, and it takes almost like the first 6 or 7 for him to get there. You have to see him down at his worst before he can become his best. And we didn't get that for Maya. Now imagine if they made that first episode of Daredevil just a shortened first 6 episodes into one episode, and then you immediately get him, well, now I'm going to try and be a savior. It doesn't play as well. And I think that's what we have here. Maya, she's such an interesting character. It's baffling to me that we wouldn't have gotten more of her past, more of her and Kingpin, and not even her past, just her past from this series. I would say the series should have been set earlier. It's the Ms. Marvel problem again. They want to do 2 different stories. They want to do Maya reconnecting with her heritage, and they want to do Maya versus Kingpin. And those 2 stories are just butting heads and they don't mix. We needed to get one and then get the other. And I feel like the writers are just afraid, oh, well, we're not going to get a second season. So just put it all together.
I think they didn't think they had the audience to be able to keep everyone's attention long enough for a second season if they were going to do it that way. They knew they had to get in if it had been 2-3 episodes of her being a kid and growing up and getting to New York after an episode and a half of her childhood the way it was, I think you would have lost a lot of viewers by then because they hadn't had any action in a series that was rated the way it was. Because you wouldn't have seen well, they could have explored her dad a lot more too, though, and that's the thing.
You do it Lost style. You do flashbacks of her as a kid, cut with her as an adult. You do theming. You say, well, what she learned as a kid is now translating to what she's doing as an adult, and then you have Daredevil and Kingpin at the center of this, so that by the end of that first season, you can see how Maya has realized, oh no, Kingpin's the bad guy, and then season 2 is now her going back to her roots. And you've got that buy-in because people love Daredevil and they love Kingpin. That's obviously not what happened, and we're never going to get that. I just think that it's a fun thought experiment to focus on what could have been.
What if?
What the hell is this?
What if indeed? What if Maya actually had a good TV show? Let's jump to episode 2. You have more episode 1 thoughts?
I have one more episode 1.
Okay, go for it.
How the f is Kingpin still alive? Like,
Maya's a really bad shot.
It obviously was a much smaller gun than we thought it was.
Scientists have just discovered the cure, about $180,000 shot directly into the bloodstream.
The more money you have, the less likely you are to die from bullet-to-brain-itis.
Yeah, my mistake on that, I guess.
Also, that eye. I kept looking at his eye.
They gave you his eye.
Whenever he took the eye patch off, I was just like staring at it. I'm like, is it real? Is it a robot eye?
Nah, he gave me 100 credits. I snuck into his room later that night and stole his eye.
Did he have a Geordie eye in there, or was it supposed to still just be part of his eye? Was it like a big indentation, like Odin style, like it's just not there and we're seeing eyelid? I didn't know what I was looking at because it was really dark multiple times. And then why did he still have so much material covering in such a weird way when it'd been 5 months? You don't have a patch by now? If you've been like having like some kind of festering eye wound for 5 months, I don't think you've still got that much tape and stuff around it. Like this is just, there's so much wrong with the eye wound.
You have pink eye. For God's sake, don't touch your eyes.
Oh, I'm going to tell you what the end credit scene should have been. It should have been Kingpin getting a delivery from Nathan Fillion's character. Here's your eye from Orgocore.
Okay, we can move on to episode 2, but like this.
Yay, the train!
This really bothered me a lot, and it's going to continue to bother me.
As it should. All right, well, episode 2, Maya brings war against Fisk to her hometown and intercepts one of his shipments, then sabotages it to blow up when it eventually reaches New York. Fisk's man Zane survives the explosion, while Henry finds out and realizes who is responsible. So yes, this is the train episode with a very fun train excitement scene with Biscuits getting to show his medal. and off-road
Off-road
driving
abilities.
skills. I
With
really
Billy Jack
enjoyed
in
this
tow.
episode. I thought it was quick and to the point. I especially loved the opening, as we alluded to earlier, with the lacrosse game in the 1200s with her ancestor. I thought that was really fun. Although I have some questions for the coach on the other team. Like, what are you doing, letting them score 9 points on you and leaving your star player on the bench the whole game?
When your community is going to be exiled if you lose. That is not a time to keep everyone fresh on the bench.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
They're focusing their time on conditioning. He's really not good in the scrimmages, so.
That lacrosse scene was really fantastic. The only part that kind of gave me a little bit of pause, other than leaving this obvious, rock star on the bench for a long time, I don't really understand these powers.
And you never will.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we do get a little bit of an explanation. I wrote it down because I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Her mom tells her in the last episode that she gets her strategy from Loak, her cunning from Tuklo, and her ferocity from Chafa. I guess those are strengths that each of those previous ancestors had.
By your powers combined.
So the sports ball player used the ferocity of Chafa to get the edge and win the game, which one could argue is like taking steroids and cheating, but hey, they didn't know that her hands were glowing, so nobody caught her.
That scene was really cool. I really love all of these parts that we're trying to showcase just how important this culture is, and Marvel should keep leaning more into this.
From a story structure perspective, I really like it in terms of them changing her powers, the way that they incorporate her ancestors and they echo through time, and it works with her name and it structures the episodes nicely. But when I found out that her powers in the comics were Taskmaster's powers, where she's a mimic and she does everything the same, I kind of am annoyed now. Like, why would you change that? Those are such cool powers. Whatever, glowy hands, sure. Undefinable glowy hand powers. What's one more?
Let's talk about Biscuits, because Biscuits is delightful with just how enthusiastic he is. He's clearly the only comic relief. And I'm kind of wondering, do we really need comic relief in everything? And clearly the answer is yes. That
for sure.
It's part of the brand. We got to do this.
I thought it was adorable when Biscuits helped Scully trick the white people into buying the thing. That scene was really funny.
Chanting.
By the damn thing, by the damn thing, by the damn thing, by the damn thing. Oh, all my relations.
And then they're looking at Biscuits, and every time they turn to look at him, he's just like,
I'm not paying attention or anything like that.
Stoic with his backwards cap on.
But Biscuits just represents your typical sidekick who is loyal to a fault, is going to do whatever it takes to help someone out, despite the fact that it's going to get him in trouble and it's going to mess up his truck. I like this character, even if at times the tone disparity with him is borderline distracting.
He's your guy in the chair. He's your Ned. He's your Aquafina. He's your...
Can I try the suit on? No. How does it work? Is it magnets? How do you shoot the string?
The lab / your mom's house, fully expecting you to be moping around in your pajamas.
I mean, he told me I could have it.
No, he did.
Yes, he did.
No, he did not.
Yes, we really bonded in that explosion.
Sean, we've been friends for 10 years, okay? You know I'm not an idiot. Nothing's gonna happen in this car. I'm the Agent Jeff Gordon.
Well, Scully's not the most serious.
Yeah.
In general. I love when Chula comes to see him at the pawn shop. I was dying.
Oh, and he solicits her for sexy time.
He's just like, want to come to the office?
You used to melt like butter when I talk Indian to you.
She's just like, oh, seriously with this?
That was a nice touch. And again, just another fun departure from the PG-13 realm. Let's get it up to TVMA for that. But
a bona fide BJ joke in the episode. Cool.
So I have a question before we get to the train heist stuff, and that has to do with Maya's motivation to do this, because in Hawkeye, it just seemed like she wanted to just get revenge on Fisk for ordering the hit to kill her father. right?
Yes.
But then in this, we have you want to be a queen pin. Okay.
I think she
okay.
figured out you can't just kill Kingpin and disappear and have a life and go,
Yeah.
work retail afterward. Like, what's she gonna do? I think that she was so caught up in her revenge and I gotta kill the person that killed my dad for so long. She didn't know what to do afterwards. She had no plan. There was no plan for after she did that. So now that people are actually after her and she's got to figure out what to do, it's like, well, I think the only way I'm going to get out of this is if I take it over. Because what else are you going to do? Run the rest of your life and not do anything? You have to take over so that you can make everyone stop trying to kill you. That's the only option you really have unless you just disappear. And a deaf amputee assassin is not exactly someone who's going to blend into a crowd.
Even once she starts enacting said plan, she doesn't really feel pot committed. She kind of goes back and forth. And then when Kingpin shows up and he goes, hey, you want to be in charge? Be in charge. I'll let you do it. She then's like, no, I don't want to. So,
everything she's done has just been reactive. There's been no planning. I mean, she planned the train heist, but it's still, she has no plans for anything really. That it seems. Chaos. Oh, for sure.
So somebody else start train heist.
I thought it looked good.
Man.
Like me, I'm all about with these Disney Plus shows now. What did they do on a stage or on a volume versus what did they do practically? And you could actually make me believe that they actually filmed this on a moving train. Like it looked really good. It was a fun little heist, reverse heist where she had to like get on there. She had to use the tech to get into the thing. And then she got into the train and then she got her legs stuck and then she had to use her powers for the first time, and that like surprised her a bit, which was cool. Like I think it was a very well-structured adventure scene in the middle of the episode, which kept the show exciting.
I'm glad the train scene is where it was. I think if they had waited any longer to have a big scene like that with the amount of action that was going on, I think you would have started losing people. Like, I don't think you would have had viewers go to episode 3 if the train scene didn't happen in episode 2, because you've only really had that one fight up until that point. We don't 100% know how her uncle's involved in this, and you never really get too deep into that either, which is kind of annoying because, after everything happens with that explosion, that somehow this is affecting him. But I'm sorry, I didn't really get, like, other than like he's like he runs the skating rink, but he also is in charge of shipping through Fisk, whatever it is, which happens to be in town. Like
yeah, like what was in that truck that blew up? Like what was the unobtainium?
We don't know what she messed up. That's such a big deal because he's talking to his people and they're running around like, no, we're fine. Yeah, I've got you covered. So obviously they're into shady crap somehow, but you never get to know like, what is he doing that's not like, is it just because he's associated with Fisk in any way that he can't possibly be on the up and up? Or is he aware of specifically what's going on? And that really annoyed me with that part of it, because I don't know if he's just turning a blind eye because he knows it's part of Fisk's empire, or if he is very aware of what's going on and how big a deal this really was because of what was in that train.
What's in the box?
Yeah, I like the train heist. I think the only real gripe I have about it is I don't understand how Maya gets her powers. Is this like a Captain Planet situation where it's like, oh, with our powers combined,
I am Captain Planet.
Another time she could have used powers though in the past, so it can't be one of those the powers come to you when you need them.
That's the only thing about this that just kind of caused me to scratch my head a little bit. Does Maya get it because she really needs it? I don't know. I don't get it. And Patrice, you brought up a good point about her uncle who runs this roller rink. I want to hear that recruiting pitch. It's like Kingpin in the middle of Oklahoma.
Is there some kind of main train line running through? Like,
you guys are just pitching my Kingpin Maya prequel show that I keep saying. Because they said in the show, the uncle was in New York. He's the one that got Maya's dad the job in New York. And then when the dad died, he left New York and moved back to Oklahoma. But Kingpin threatened him. And so he had to stay within the business. So that means Kingpin's business always came through this town.
Well, he was always into shady stuff, though, because the grandma said she never liked him and his brother to begin with.
But was it regular shady stuff?
Right.
Or was it Kingpin shady stuff? Who's to say?
Exactly. We'll never know.
I'm glad that there are various levels of, shady stuff. There's regular shady stuff. There's Kingpin shady stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll go all the way up to Thanos related
Thanos
shady
is never
stuff.
shady about anything. He's very out front and open with all of the things that he does.
Tell that to Gamora when she gets thrown off the
Yeah.
side of that cliff for the Soul Stone.
Hey, it was right there on his face. He shed a tear. The Red Skull knew immediately what was happening.
But yes,
Well,
this train heist scene, it looked good. It was a good way, again, just to showcase how awesome Maya is.
plus, it gave us the scene with Biscuit and Chula seeing the busted up truck at the end, and Biscuit's quickly driving away, going, "Oh no!"
Like nothing to see here.
That part at the end where Biscuits is just pretty much the equivalent of just posting something on your Facebook page. Be like, I got a video game system for sale. Does anybody want it? I need the money to repair everything. And that's how we randomly get Bonnie.
Bonnie, who is essentially
no one else
MacGuffin.
No one else in town told Bonnie at this point, even though lots of people seem to have already seen. You can't tell me once Maya walked into that skating rink, everyone in town didn't know.
Well, it turns out Bonnie's a real asshole, so nobody talks to Bonnie.
Nobody talks to her.
Maybe she's in the shady shit because there are way too many EMTs in such a
For
small
a town
town.
that size. Like, are people just like falling off buildings and like getting hit in the street? Because that was
It's a
a
front.
very, very packed firehouse full of EMTs and fire personnel for a town.
They had
that
enough for a
size.
pickup basketball game.
I mean, was it the dry season and they were expecting like lightning fires? Like, what is going on that was so fully staffed, like in that town?
Okay, so a couple of things. One, there's obviously a crime enterprise that is part of.
Are they
this
going to get
group.
involved in that though?
They might
Bodies
be.
dropping left and right.
And when you've got the mortician coming to sew you up, I don't think the EMTs are getting that involved in the criminal underworld in your town.
That attitude, but yeah, it's possible, I guess. But there are like random breaks being cut, and this family, it just has a reputation. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
Well,
All
that
right.
brings us to episode 3, titled Tuklo. Another of Maya's ancestors is introduced, and Zane.
Put a cork in it, Zane.
And some of his men come to Tamaha to hunt down Maya, and those they think are sheltering her after she planted the bomb in Fisk's shipment. And I liked the way this episode opened with black and white Mulan and her silent movie Native American lawmen story. I thought that was really cool. It was a really fun way to set things up. It was different from the previous 2 episodes. It was new and fun. And when Marvel does this, when they stylize their shit, it's really cool. Like, I would have watched an entire episode in this format.
Plus, it would have been appropriate as well.
Right?
considering-
Yeah. It would have been really cool. So, like, the more they do different, the better. Yeah, this episode, I guess, would be dubbed the roller skating rink episode.
Skate rink.
Yeah.
Make America skate again.
Make America skate again.
That was
That
great.
That was so great.
Every roller rink is gonna have something like that from now on.
Can I just say, this fight made me so sad and nostalgic for all of those pinball machines and beautiful gaming cabinets that got just obliterated. Okay, and here's where my mind wanders while I'm watching a fight scene like this, right? You got all the stuff getting destroyed, and I'm thinking, there's no way he can report this to his insurance. What's he going to say?
Denied? You're denying my claim? Oh, I don't understand. I'm on a fixed income.
Like, what is he going to say? And I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but there were bodies at the end of this fight. Did the bad guys take the bodies with them? Or is he 100% like, I'll just find a way to get rid of these? Like,
Listen, every skating rink has a food court. And what do they sell? Hot dogs.
Hot dogs. I mean, it's the only way to go is to fry green tomato your way into a barbecue on this. Like, we get collateral damage in all these movies and shows, but this is a very small town.
All right. That was the question that I was going to ask. Are we having this question now, or have you had this question?
I always have this question, but
it's like, what do they do with all of these dead / unconscious people that we need to address?
You know how easy it is to ditch a body in New York? Come on. You got places to go. This is a very small Oklahoma town. I can't imagine no one would be asking, hey, what happened to the douchebag that used to get the skates for me? Like, did he finally get run out of town? Oh, thank God.
These are the questions you guys have. The question I had was, they knock Maya out, they kidnap her. They put a bag over her head. She wakes up. She's hanging upside down. Like the logistics of
Why did they
those
waste all that
three
time doing
hillbillies.
that?
Right? That's what I'm saying.
And I'm sorry, those two chicks did not have anything to do with tying her. No, none of them. Even Vicky, dude.
How'd
There's
they
no
get her up
world.
there? Why did they do such a bad job? And then as soon as she wakes up and falls, they put her in another room anyway.
And then I need you to keep an eye on her. I'm gonna wait outside. How is that keep it? You have one job. Watch the prisoner. How are you doing that from another room while on your phone? I do not understand. Like, she got everything she was deserving. I'm sorry. You do not take your eye off the prize. Literally, that is your meal ticket, is the fact that you have been able to capture this chick and hold her hostage. And you were just waiting for the money to come through, which was so stupid to begin with, because that was never going to happen. But you literally just have to watch her, and they totally like James Bond it with like, oh, I'll just leave the lasers to get him. We'll see you later when we come back to clean up. Like, and she heard a zip tie break from the next room and didn't check. Come on, it's totally fine. She's not in a room full of all kinds of things too. Like, did they find the busiest room in this entire roller? Why wouldn't you just like lock her up in the bathroom? Like, what is wrong with these people? They're the worst criminals ever. Like, and you can't tell me there wasn't another way out of a room that big. I'm sorry. There's a fire exit somewhere. You really just like, oh, well, I'm not going to escape and help people. I'll just sit here and wait till she comes back. Let me just wait.
I'm actually more curious to find out what these idiots are doing.
So I'm glad that you two had interesting questions that you ask about this. Here's my interesting question. Why did Maya choose Rob Zombie's Dragula as the song? Well, yeah, it was an awesome song. I love the strategy of making it super loud.
That was awesome.
So that's my big question. The other scene that I did like is the interaction that Bonnie and Maya did have, clearly chalked with a lot of emotion. And from what I can tell, Devery Jacobs, who does play Bonnie, I don't think she knows a whole lot of sign language, and it looked pretty good.
No, they all looked very like good with their emotions when they signed, because they were still signing so clearly. Like, you could tell that a lot went into the practice and rehearsal with being able to emote while doing the sign language, which has to, I mean, you're doing two things at once and trying to make it look good. Like, I really respect all the actors that had to learn the sign for their parts in this and make it so emotional while they did it, but it was at the right times too. Like, they weren't off with their signing was lined up with their talking. And I thought that was really impressive, just seeing how fluent they looked at it. I mean, yeah, some of them are a little, it's a second language. It's not something easy to do. But the fact that you're thinking about how your body's moving while you're thinking about how you look for the camera, how you're doing this, how everyone's telling you what to do and where to look, but being able to emote on the right, like Henry does it really well too. Like, you know, her uncle, like I really liked the emotion he had while he's doing it. Cause, you know, every time Biscuits and Scully are signing, they're two dudes just signing back and forth a little bit, but like when you see the emotion that Bonnie and Henry use in every interaction they're having, because they know how serious everything is, and they're, you know, Bonnie's legitimately hurt, Henry's legitimately scared for everyone. I really thought that was the most impressive part of this episode. It was beautiful to watch. If they're having these big emotional
too. Because as a person who doesn't know sign language other than like the alphabet, to the untrained eye, it all looked really impressive. But to then hear that, no, it's actually what they're doing is good, that blows me away even more.
Alaqua Cox is just amazing. I mean, I can't believe this is the first thing that she's done. And then the way she signs so casually, like she's beautiful. Like she speaks so beautifully. I just loved watching her. And then the girl that plays her younger self is her real life cousin, which I thought was really cool. Nice. And that girl learned how to sign from like Alaqua Cox, I guess, when she told her about the job and stuff. It's like, hey, maybe you should try to do this, was sending her videos to help her learn how to sign. So she didn't know how to sign either, which I thought was impressive, because I thought that the little girls signing were amazing.
Yeah, she is the reason there is an Echo show, because there's talent there, and to give her own show 100% makes sense.
100%. 100%. 100%.
And then the fight scene in the roller rink was also pretty cool.
Oh my gosh. I love when she whipped those guns off of that arcade cabinet and was just like kind of using her daredevil skills. I don't know. But she was like,
if like, she could actually mimic, then that would actually be pretty cool.
I've seen this before. I'm going to give it a whirl. but with 2.
Interesting use of ski balls, but
oh my gosh, that was amazing. And then they cut to the lacrosse player in that part too, which was really cool. I liked that it wasn't just she got red hands. You got, because I feel like most of the cutaways to the ancestors were just kind of more, you saw their face real quick, like cuts of their faces in the other, like once or twice that they had done it up until that point. But this was the first time you actually got, oh, that's why, like they're cutting to her for a reason, because she was the athlete and she had that dead on aim. And now Maya's smashing those balls
Phrasing
straight at those dudes' faces. Like it was just second nature.
Mhm.
And I thought that was really cool use of the flashback to the ancestor, because it actually made sense, like that she's starting to embrace these powers more and what they're doing for her efforts, I guess. 'Cause
So episode 4 then, titled Taloa, Fisk comes to Tamaha and reminds Maya of their shared past and invites her to return with him to New York City.
New York City!
And assume his throne. Maya meets with her chula, who tells her granddaughter about the meaning of her visions. So yeah, I mean, we've already talked about it. Fisk's weird eye and his fun sign language tech that he gives Maya. This is
that was easier than learning.
Exactly.
It's easier to buy tech than to learn something.
I thought that was a nice touch, though, and she calls to light on it. The
I
whole,
love
like,
that she
if
did
you
that.
cared so much, you never even bothered to learn how to sign. Was this the episode, or was the next episode where they kill the interpreter?
I think this is the one where
I think it was this one.
yeah, because they could do the Sunday dinner thing at kind of near the beginning and the end of this one. So like, oh, you've come to the end of your tutelage, and it's like, you can't tell me that translator chick didn't know she was in trouble long before this happened. Like, did you think you were just like on permanent retainer here? Like, come on. And are they just randomly remodeling, and that's why this plastic is up? Yeah, I'm not nervous at all.
I just thought that was such a weird scene, though, too. Like,
it was awkward.
Yeah, well, it didn't serve much of a purpose other than to show up that Kingpin's evil.
We know he's brutal.
We know
like,
that.
It's not a secret.
He's not going to need her anymore. Like
he 100% still needs her. Like, what is he shipping off Maya to like the European office? Like, there's no world where he doesn't still need help talking to her.
Exactly.
Like, he can't think that was the part that got me more than anything, was like, why would he get rid of the interpreter now? And
it would have made sense if that's when he introduced I got this cool
tech.
new thing that makes
check
her
this out.
irrelevant.
Exactly. But that's not how that went down. It's just like, bye, interpreter.
Yeah, it was weird.
So let me get this straight. We thought that Fisk killing the translator was the part that we thought he was evil, not the fact that he beats up an ice cream.
That ice cream man had it coming.
Whoa.
Are you kidding?
Whoa.
He used his hands to mock a girl after he had the audacity to be out. I'm just saying, he had it coming.
He had it coming. He only had himself to blame. If you'd have been there, if you'd have seen it, I bet you would have done the same.
Right? The little girl is trying to talk to him, clearly can't speak, and he's just a monster to her. He had it coming.
Horrible. He's in the service industry. There are standards, people.
Daredevil would have beaten that guy up.
And I'm glad she went back and kicked him. I'm glad they added that in.
Right?
I'm not gonna lie. I was just like, yeah, get him during that part.
This is where they started kind of making it like, well, she wasn't like a total sweet little girl.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they allude to. Maya knows what she's doing. Like, we get snippets of Maya's past in the fact that, well, she wasn't the best either.
But not only that she had a lot of rage built up. Kingpin gave her an obvious outlet for her to express that rage by murdering people.
Murder.
But that scene also with the ice cream man, it feels like kind of what you were talking about earlier, Nick. Hey, we're Marvel Spotlight. We can be a little bit more violent. And that seemed way too over the top, because I feel like they made him wear a white suit. Number one, because it is comic accurate. So I will give them that. However, at the same time, it's like, what better way to show that this guy is ruthless than let's give him a white suit and let him beat the shit out of somebody.
It is a little over the top, but like Kingpin always was a little over the top. So I do like that they went there. I think the better way of doing it would have been the guy just was a little less nice he was so over the top evil to this kid. It felt like a good thing that Kingpin was beating the crap out of him. And I think that's where the issue came from. Like, you get more of a sense of fear if this guy isn't as bad and Kingpin still beats the shit out of him. Like, if he had just said to Maya, sorry, we're out, and Maya like kept trying and he's like, I don't know what to tell you, we're out, and then he left. Then when he beats the shit out of him, you're like, oh my God. But like the fact that he was so mustache twirly, I'm just like,
kill him. Kill him now. Do it.
Yeah, when you can tell from across the street that a guy's being a total ass to a little girl,
Yeah.
like you got it coming.
This also just reestablishes, oh yeah, Kingpin, this guy knows how to destroy people as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think they almost kind of had to add that in a little bit though, because he does seem so sweet with her. Every time you've got young Maya with him, he's in general been acting really sweet and like fatherly to her. And I think if you don't have like how brutal he was being with her right there, I mean, he says like, oh, keep her in the car, but of course she gets out of the car because why wouldn't she? She's in a show. Of course she's going to get out of the car.
I think my big struggle with this whole episode is Kingpin is doing an awful lot to try to get Maya back, but that just seems like a very odd decision for him because she shot you in the head, buddy.
Just a flesh wound. I'm invincible!
Yeah.
Obviously. You would think that Kingpin would be out for blood, and we don't see enough of their relationship for me to warrant Kingpin just having this super soft spot.
100% makes no sense, only in the sense that clearly there's more to the story that they just didn't give us. Like, and that's the frustrating part. Like, we should have gotten more of their relationship together, but they wanted to spend more time in other places, doing other things.
Well, even in the next
What it
one,
is.
I was waiting for when I don't want to get too far ahead, but in this one, this episode, I was waiting for there to be some kind of flashback to his childhood where she looks like someone or there's something about her that is making her like it's not just your dad was guy that I was high up for me. Like there's got to be something about her that he's drawn to other than her spirit. I just felt like she has to look like his sister or his mom or something. Like I always thought that we might get that and we didn't. So I still just don't get the relationship. Like I felt like there had to be something else involved.
Who remembers Daredevil well enough to answer this question for me? Because it's been years since I watched it. Did we get flashbacks of Fisk as a kid in that show?
Yes.
We did?
Like in one episode in particular, the one where it's like, this is how Wilson learned to defend himself.
I must not have got that far into that series because it was all new to like that. In the next episode, it was all new information for me.
Well, the hammer like plays into that. Yeah.
So was this the first time the Hammer made an appearance, or is this that's a callback from Daredevil?
That's a callback from Daredevil. So there you go. You did need to see Daredevil.
So we needed Daredevil. Damn it!
You monsters.
They didn't give us the previously on for that. Okay, so the reason I asked is because it felt like there was a bit of Kingpin's relationship with Maya. It felt like he saw himself in Maya, and that's why they connected from the start. Like, she was picked on as a kid. She was different. She had a disability. I feel like he felt in his twisted way that they were the same, and that's why there was that connection.
You and I are of a kind and a different reality. I could have called you friend.
Like you said, they just didn't do enough to explain that, and they were just kind of hoping that the shorthand of 5 episodes is the reason that you would get it. Okay, and then the last bit of the episode would be Grandma and Maya having their little face-to-face, and Maya has a bit of a visions meltdown, and Henry takes her to see Chula, and they talk. What did you think of this interaction with Chula? So, like, this episode is Maya confronting her parental figures, I guess. I was really hoping they would maybe tie Chula and Kingpin's roles more together, because, like, Kingpin was there and doted on Maya, but like is a bad guy, and Chula wasn't there and rejected Maya, but clearly isn't bad. She's just, Disney.
I feel like Maya's old enough to have known that
generational
Chula didn't have a choice here. Like, you can't tell me that at this point in Maya's life, knowing what her dad did, at like who he worked for and what he was into, that she didn't realize at that point that there was no way her grandma could have kept her, and like it wasn't going to be an option. Like her dad 100% was going to take her away, and it wasn't like her grandmother really had a choice in seeing her. Like I felt like, I don't know, like it just, as an adult looking back at your childhood, you really think your grandma was just like, well, I'm done with you. My daughter died and I don't want
But
to see you anymore.
that is
Like,
exactly
I
what
just,
happened, because it's not 1942 where like
you
her
can't
letters
communicate.
all got lost. Like phones exist,
Well,
FaceTime exists.
well, I was
Her
confused as to
grandmother
how
cut
she
her out.
talks to Bonnie and stuff. Like, I feel like Maya wasn't interacting with them on purpose. So how does she have Bonnie's number that they're texting or not
I just
texting?
assumed they always kept in
Like,
touch, because it wasn't until after her father died that Maya cut them out, she said. And Chula
I
cut
must
her
have missed
out
that because I
completely.
felt like it was like, yeah, I guess I must have thought everyone got cut out. Like when they moved, that was it. And they just were off the grid as far as the family was concerned. So I guess I must have just missed that somewhere. But
Because otherwise, it's the Frozen situation. It's like at a certain point, Anna, you have to realize Elsa doesn't like you anymore. But my assumption is that they were close. They texted each other, and because Bonnie says, when your dad died, you stopped responding to me. You cut me out. But it sounded like the way Maya made it seem that Chula did that from the start. That she never heard from her again.
I mean, and I kind of almost got the idea that she gave up her craft of sewing and stuff like that. Like it was too painful to keep like doing her culturally significant, artisan work with the sewing and the leather work because of her family being such a sore spot for her. Because
Yeah.
why else, like, you know what I mean? Like it didn't seem like, well, I'm just going to work for the post office now. Like it seemed like there had to be a bigger reason, because it's not like she had arthritis and couldn't do it, because she goes back to doing it in this episode. Like she gets her sewing machine back, which of course Scully was still going to have because he's got a soft spot for her. That's obvious. But,
Exactly.
I just, it seemed like that had to have been the reason she stopped with that part of it. I'm glad I mean, obviously, like it was like she was going to come back in and finish this outfit that she was already working on for like, I didn't get that part of it though.
You
Like,
made
was
it
it
really
something
quick.
where, like, it looked like maybe she had started something in like maybe she had hopes of reconnecting with Maya after her dad died, and then that didn't happen, so that's when she gave up the art. Like parts of it looked like it had been, and it wasn't random, like it looked like it was specific to their tribe, and there was significance for Chula in that outfit. It wasn't just, I'm making this outfit for my store.
It was for Maya, yeah.
Yeah, it just was very clearly looking like it was for Maya, but I felt like she had started sooner, and maybe like, I don't know, that's just the vibe I got from it, was like she had hopes of reconnecting with her after her father was dead, and then that didn't happen, and that's when she's just like, I'm out.
All right, so episode 5 then. Fisk brings war to Maya and her family during the Choctaw powwow. Maya accesses the powers of her ancestors to fight back and save those dear to her. So realistically, this is just the final episode. Everything comes to a head. Kingpin wants Maya to come back. Maya doesn't want to come back. They have a big fight during the powwow. I think the best part of this was the intercutting between the fight and the powwow and the Native American tribal music playing while they're fighting, and it was
Absolutely.
super well done. And then to find out that they also worked with the Choctaw Nation to make sure that all of this
Right.
was on point 100% from start to finish.
And that
Just
they created some of
amazing.
that
Yeah.
for the score. It was original Choctaw, like it was made from like in conjunction with the Choctaw to make something that was culturally appropriate for this without just using stuff that was Choctaw ancestral songs and stuff. I thought that was really cool that they worked with them to make something specific to this, so they're not using something that has such significance in a show. I thought that was
Yeah.
really great.
That's really cool. I agree. And then of course she uses her glowy hand powers to go inside of Fisk's mind to try and therapize him.
Oof. Yeah, that was
I,
scary.
I can't. Okay, I can't tell what I was more confused about. So we have the scene at the beginning with the bird,
which we've seen throughout popping
yeah,
up.
yeah, for sure.
Remind me of the crows from Beef.
That is true. So then I don't understand how that power translates to this power where she can go into Wilson Fisk's brain and access this memory. And then to also learn that it's not just Maya that has these powers. The grandma has the power too. Also, Bonnie has the power as well.
Well, and the mom had it too. She healed the bird.
The mom could heal the bird. Apparently, the mom had the best lock on the powers due to the fact that
because she just did it.
She just could do it. Grandma thought it was weird that things could occur, but like mom was like, nah, yeah, I could just heal birds.
She's like, oh, hold on, I got this.
Do you know how easy this is for me? Do you have any idea how easy this is? This is a joke.
I have the same problem with Fisk's strategy in this whole thing. The same problem with Fisk that I had with Thrawn in Ahsoka. It's like, Fisk, this, Grand Kingpin and can't hang?
Somebody else said it. Can't remember where. I heard it on YouTube somewhere. Marvel's problem isn't that their villains are lame. It's that they never let their villains win. And we need to see Kingpin win in order to be really afraid of him. And now we've seen him lose to Daredevil. We've seen him lose to Maya twice. When are we going to get to see Kingpin win in order to be truly terrified of this person?
I disagree. I think Kingpin has only lost Maya once because he survived. So
it's true. He did survive.
So
she missed.
Surprise, motherfucker.
It was a kerfuffle, but he didn't get beat. I mean, he's here.
You're right, Nick. The big thing that I love about this is this festival. This, like, everything about this festival was really great. And it's just, it sucks because kind of like what you were talking about before is that the powwow takes this back seat to all of this stuff with Fisk and Maya. I don't know. I just kind of wish that this would have been.
I did feel like 30 minutes when I saw how long the episode was. I was like, how are they going to get all, like, not that there's a lot going on, but there's enough that I felt like 30 minutes seemed real short to be able to go to a powwow, have anything to do with that powwow, and still wrap up what was going on with the dueling factions kind of aspect of this. So I feel like the powwow did get a little shortchanged because like it just seemed like they put so much emphasis on every episode at the beginning with those really great, scenes from the ancestors to not explore it a little more throughout the powwow. I was really expecting there to be more of those stories incorporated into the powwow to where that as a group, they're all aware of these great people that came before them. Like, I don't know. I get they're trying to keep their time or whatever, or it would have been too expensive. I don't know.
Well, it was the shortest episode of the series.
It was so short to not spend. You've already got this powwow going on. How much more effort would it have taken to add a few minutes here and there about, like, the heart of this powwow had to have been sharing these stories. It just seems like the kind of thing that would be happening at an event like that, especially with an event that seems like it's such a big deal in that community for both tourists and for them culturally. It just felt weird that they didn't spend more time on what was going on at it other than the fighting.
Agreed. Well, I think that brings us to our wrap up. Overall thoughts on the show as a whole. I have it like right in the middle. I liked it, but obviously there are flaws. I've said this a couple times now with these Disney Plus shows, and I mean it very much so for this one. I would love for them to release a version where they just get rid of the opening credits, the previously ons, and the end credits, and just give us a press play at the beginning, you get the intro, and then you can watch it all the way through, and then all the credits are at the end in like a movie style, because it's only like 3 hours total, so it'd be a little long. It would probably still be less than Killers of the Flower Moon, and you still get that cool shot of the overhead anyway
it's probably
at the end.
Shorter than Wakanda Forever.
but I would really love to see, just like I said the same thing about WandaVision and Loki, like give me a play all feature that eliminates the gaps.
The 7 minutes of credits at the end and all that.
Let me see how it plays. Like I would love to have seen that in this one as well. Because I think this one would play as a pretty decent long movie. I'd also love to see them edit it down to a 2-hour movie because I think it could be done. I think that the framing device of each episode, with each one focusing on a different ancestor, I think that is what makes it a better TV show than a lot of the previous Marvel shows have been.
I just want more biscuits, but other than that, biscuits in the church wearing cutoffs and the shirt like the sleeveless shirt.
Biscuits murdering all those guys in his monster truck.
You're like, seriously. You're just like, oh my gosh. So how much did he sell that Xbox for?
So what you're saying is the next Marvel TV show spinoff is going to be Biscuits.
Do you remember with Thor they did those like what were
Daryl?
they? That yeah, with the roommate
Darren?
and the
That's when I moved in with Daryl. Hello.
yeah. They had the roommate and then you had like the other one, Coulson comes in at one point. There were like what 5 or 6 of them that were just a couple
The
of
one
minutes.
shots.
Yeah, like I feel like Biscuits would be good for those. like like in between what was going on everywhere. Like how did he end up with the money to do the monster truck at the end? Like I take a one shot on that.
I want to see Biscuits interns for Stark Industries.
Yeah. Yes.
It's Biscuits and it's Happy Hogan.
I want to see Biscuits showing up late for dinner with Chula and just handing her the keys to the truck that barely dragged into the driveway. Like I just need the couple of 3-4 minute things blipped in with a couple of more Biscuit scenes and Billy Jack. And the fact that he took the time to sign out Billy Jack's entire name.
Exactly.
Overall, I thought it was fine. I think it's a little muddled at times. And I think the representation and the cultural aspects were enough for me to not like flat out dislike this. But then it's trying to have its cake and eat it too with the story, with the violence. And I don't know, I feel like there just wasn't enough focus on making sure that Maya is like up front and center. And there's just a lot going on. And I think having Daredevil in it doesn't help. Having Fisk in this doesn't help matters either, because the only thing that like for me sometimes that I see, and this is reinforced by the post or the mid-credit scene as well at the end, it's like, are you all just doing this to set up Daredevil Born Again? And that kind of irks me a lot.
Real quick, my thoughts on the post-credit scene. Worst written post-credit scene ever. How many we need a bare knuckle boxer, a brawler, somebody new who can fight. Like, oh my god, stop saying all of these very specific things.
The only thing missing from that is we need some guy who's really tall, bald, and a Vincent D'Onofrio like person.
We need a Vincent D'Onofrio type.
Okay, I see.
Oh my god.
You remember Law and Order Criminal Intent? There was a guy.
Yeah.
I think he could be the guy.
The only thing that would have been worse if they would have been like, we need someone who could be a king. Somebody to really knock down all the pins.
Oh, king. We need somebody who beats the crap out of ice cream vendors.
Mustache twirling ice cream vendors.
I feel pretty confident that that end credit scene was tacked on, and it bothers me to no end.
It was awful. It was absolutely awful. Worse. That one might actually be worse than the ant playing the drums in Ant-Man and Wasp.
It makes you appreciate the ant playing the drums.
Right? Now that we've decided how we feel about the show, I think it's time to rank it into the official sacred timeline. What do you say, Mike?
Let's do it.
You know, my Pep always said, if you want to do something right, you make a list.
He's making a list.
I'll put it on the list.
It's quite an impressive list. Thank you.
Those two beautiful nerdy men are negotiating using the power of math.
In this segment, we will be giving our personal rankings of where we would add Echo to our MCU list. We will also decide where to add Echo to the official Geeks Speak Louder Than Nerds sacred timeline. So, where did you have this on your rankings?
Well, Mike, I have Echo listed at number 36, just above Falcon and the Winter Soldier at 35, and below The Incredible Hulk at 37. What about you? Where do you have Echo on your list?
I have this at number 34, just below Iron Man 2, but above Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
So you have it a little higher than me.
Okay, like calm down, like just a smidge higher.
A smidge, yeah. That's what a little means.
Oh, ish, ish, yeah.
The 36 to 34. So I mean, what? We split the difference and put it at 35 on the joint?
No, I'm perfectly fine with you putting it lower at 36 because, like it's going to get down lower because if and when we eventually do add these Netflix shows,
Which at this point, I think we have to say we will eventually do that. We just haven't seen them in so long that we gotta revisit them first, and that's a shit ton of television that you have to watch because that's 30 episodes of Daredevil, 30 episodes of Jessica Jones, 20 Luke Cage because they were all 10, right?
Yeah, I believe
Or
they
no,
were all
some of
10.
them were 13.
Some of the Daredevil ones were 13. 20 episodes of The Punisher, 20
Yeah.
unfortunate episodes of Iron Fist, and then what, like six to eight episodes of The Defenders?
It's
Sure.
a lot. The point is, it's a lot of television that we have to revisit in order to figure it out. And I'm gonna be real honest with you. The only one that I have watched all of is Daredevil. And, well, I just ended Defenders because it was just that one. I didn't watch Iron Fist season 2. I didn't watch Luke Cage season 2. I didn't watch Jessica Jones season 3. Oh, and I didn't watch Punisher season 2.
Only one of those is worth watching.
All right, so putting Echo on the group joint listing at 36 in between Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Black Widow.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I don't like it. I guess I can live with that.
That's a compromise!
Echo.
Echo.
All right, there we go. We did it. Hey!
Woo, woo.
All right. Well, Mike, I think that's our show. What do we have coming up next week?
Next week, we will be doing something you all will definitely love.
I'm really looking forward to it myself. Wouldn't you agree, Patrice?
Oh, when they told me what it was, my jaw hit the floor.
Damn it, Patrice, I'm not finished!
Until next time, please like, subscribe, share. Remember not to lie to everyone about Daredevil being in your show if you don't want them to say mean things about it, and rate us 5 stars on your listening app of choice. Also, you can find us on social media. I am on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and serialized at MLHilty2452.
And you can find me on Letterboxd, Blue Sky, and Twitter at Jagged2319. You can also contact the show at geekspeaklouder@gmail.com or on Blue Sky by searching Geeks Speak Louder Than Nerds. You can also join our Facebook group and follow us on Twitter at Geeks Speak Loud. Patrice, where can our listeners find you?
You can find me on Siftpop.com once a month, writing about things that have nothing to do with documentaries I recommend that have something to actually do with a movie that's coming out. And you can also find me on Twitter, Serialized, Letterboxd. Anywhere I'm at is going to be Teely Fox Talks.
Be sure to follow Patrice. And Patrice, thank you again for taking the time out of your day to join us on the show.
Thank you guys for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, anytime indeed. So until next time, I'm Nick Farrow.
And I'm Mike Hilty. Thank you for tuning in to Geek Speak Louder Than Nerds. Catchphrase.
Bye, everybody.
Geek out.
Nobody asked for your help, Patrice! Damn it, Patrice!
And then ended the... God damn it. If I had a nickel... I can't read my own writing.
Damn it, Patrice!
If you include movies, you'd have 3 nickels.
Well, no, that one didn't end with a barbecue.
Oh, okay.
I thought about that.
Damn it, Patrice!
They're Greek biscotti, actually.
Ooh, I like biscotti. Those are delicious. Why didn't you mail them to us?
Damn it, Patrice!
I'm trying to convince Julie, who has recently become a sourdough starter mom. She needs to try and make a sourdough biscotti. See how that turns out. We're just sourdoughing everything up in this house.
Damn it, Patrice!
So he thinks you think that I think that you're the nerd.
Damn it, Patrice!
What was the last movie you saw in theaters? How many years ago? Jurassic World?
Oh, keep going.
Dark Knight Rises.
Nope.
Are we still going back?
We're still going backwards, yes. We're still in the Wayback Machine.
Spider-Man 2. Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith.
No, I gave up on that. No.
Was 2004? Was he right with 2004? Or are we still going back?
You were like right on the cusp with 2004.
Finding Nemo was 2000.
It was a big re-release this year in theaters.
I'm trying to think. What did they re-release this year?
Maybe
This year
it was
is
a bigger
Love
deal to me.
Actually?
No.
Is it Old Boy?
No. It's part of a trilogy.
The Matrix?
Oh, actually, that was one of the last movies I saw was The Matrix, but that's not the last one. Yeah, that was just such a great movie experience that it got to where, if something like dorky came out, like, am I going to go see like an Adam Sandler movie after that? Like it's not the same, like I want to see it, but it's like, do I want to go through the effort of driving down there and like to see a movie like that? Nah, not really. And then it got into where we were collecting DVDs and stuff more. So it's like, well, why don't we'll spend our money on the DVDs instead of spending our money going to the theater. And then, it just ended up becoming a thing. Like, do I really want to be in a packed room full of all those people anymore?
Well, you heard it here first, folks. The Lord of
yeah.
the Rings, Return of the King, ruined movies for
Ruined movies
Patrice.
for me.
Did you hear the reasons? Sorry, I know you're about to get us into the episode, but I'm gonna scroll real quick.
We were almost gonna talk
Did
about
you hear
something Marvel related.
Did you hear the rumor of Spider-Man 4? Sony
That
wants
Sony
it
wants-
to be a big spectacle multiverse movie, and Kevin Feige and Tom Holland wanted to be more grounded and down to earth. I just was like, oh, so Kevin Feige wants a good movie and Sony wants to ruin it. Great.
Am I good to transition?
You go for
to
it. Transition us. Just a note to our dear listeners. Did you deleted the
Damn it. Yes,
I
did.
know you. You know why I noticed it immediately? Because I intentionally made sure that there was an S there because you gave me so much shit the other day. Pretty sneaky, sis.
I have a feeling that's going to cause some confusion down the road, because if they have that actress who voiced her in What If in the MCU as Kahori as well, it's like, you're okay.
Wait,
cool.
that's the same actress?
Bro, yeah.
I don't know these things sometimes. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just assumed she was going to play Kaori when they bring her into live action, which, if you listen to last week's episode, then you'll have remembered me saying. My assumption was that the girl who voices Kaori, because she's an on-screen actor too, would be live action Kaori.
Yep, but now there's going to be confusion. Guns just don't kill people anymore, even at point blank range to the head. We are approaching lightsaber ineffectiveness levels. Well, but you got it coming.
He only had himself to blame.
Maybe that should be our March Madness tournament.
Actually,
you've done a lot of work on this.
I think we did it. I think we did it. That's actually it. That's what we're doing. All right, I'm gonna cut this all out so that when we say this next part, it actually makes sense now. So, well, thank you so much for
hanging
coming
with
in.
us.
And
No
sorry we
problem.
went long.
No, you're good. I was like, yeah, I saw when we first got to episode 1, I'm like, oh, it's gonna take longer than I told my husband I was gonna be.
Spouses,
But-
how do they work? All right, so that's it. We're done.
That's it. Yeah, we're done.
We did the other part.